Over the past year or so, I've done various polls on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram page asking you, the viewer, the audience, where they are struggling. What is the challenges they're facing with their print-on-demand business? And every single time I do these polls, it always goes back to niche research. That seems to be an area that people really struggle with. So in this video, what I've done here is I've got 8 different niches, 8 different design styles, and basically t-shirts that we're gonna look at, and I wanna try and show you my thought process and why a design works. So this is gonna be a little bit deeper than just showing niches or recommending trending niches. This is gonna be me pulling up some designs and trying to explain why I think this design works. What about that design makes it effective? Why does it have sales? Or where I think there's potential and how you could repurpose that same concept or idea into a different design. And these designs are going to vary, right? Some of them you're going to see are just simply text only, very, very simple, but they're clever. There's a message behind it. It's appealing to a particular target audience or a target customer. That's the kind of things that we're going to talk about. We'll spend 1 or 2 minutes on each design. I think I have 8 of them total, so let's get right into it. All right, so the first design up here, you guys are probably familiar with. This is a very popular design, but for good reason. I absolutely love this design, and I love this style and this concept. So it simply says, I can't. I have plans in the garage. It's in a font that's simple and easy to read. It's got a little bit of distressed effect to it, right? But let's break it down here. Who is this appealing to? And that's where I want to try and get you guys thinking, because that's how you create designs. You picture your target customer. Who is the specific person that you're trying to reach with that design or with that message? And I can tell you from looking at this is for dads. This is for men, right? Who like to work in the garage, people who like to get their hands dirty. Maybe they like to tinker in the garage. They like to build things. They have hobbies that are in the garage. It's the font matches that appeal to the audience, the grunge effect, and it's so simple and effective. Now, again, don't go copying this. Look, this design has over 5,500 ratings, okay? You're not gonna outrank this. You're not gonna beat this design. But instead, think about it from the sense of how could you create something like this for a different target customer? So what if you did one that's about the she shed, right? So men like the garage, women like the she shed. I have plans in the she shed. Or maybe you do it for a different type of hobby or a different type of activity. The idea here is you don't need heavy-duty illustrations and graphics. Sometimes these simple text-only designs are just so effective. And this is just the right combination of font selection, font size, that distressed look, and it's just appealing. It's simple, and that's kind of matching what this customer likely enjoys. It's the simple life, getting in the garage, turning some wrenches, tinkering. Fantastic design and fantastic concept. Okay, the next design, this one here I pulled up mainly for the actual design effect. So you can see here it changes. This has kind of got the scrolling text where it changes from humble to hustle, and it's kind of in motion. Now, this could really be for a lot of different audiences. To me, I think entrepreneurs, right? Or maybe somebody who's coming out of their shell or coming out and growing a business, and they're going from the humble life to the hustle life. They kind of have it in here as the cool, humble odometer. I'm not really focused too much on the keywords. What I'm talking about is this effect where you change one word to another. Now, humble to hustle works out well because those 2 letters right here in the middle perfectly can scroll up and change from an MB to an ST, and then you have humble to hustle. I'm sure that's not the only word in the English language that you could do this with. So I would get on ChatGPT and I would ask it. I would somehow put in a prompt so it gives me a list of other words that have the same amount of characters that I could change a few characters to go from A to B or from one subject to another and try and create some designs around it. I just like this concept. That's not something that you can easily create with a font. That's something that's going to take a little bit more work and creativity, but I think that's a very creative, simple idea that you could repurpose into a lot of other niches. Okay, next design here. This one I chose simply for what I picture as a good illustrative or artful, colorful design, okay? So this is the corgi, right? And it just says, let's pouty, potty. Let's pouty, potty. 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 Potty So it says, let's potty, right? Like, let's party, let's potty is paw. Anyway, this to me is just a great representation of what I picture as a good merch by Amazon graphic t-shirt, something that has an illustration or a colorful component. You can see here, the graphic is not overly complicated, okay? It's not like it has so much intricate detail. It has just enough. And it's got a simple kind of appeal to it with very crisp, bright colors. The font is easy to read and matches the vibe of this kind of fun pet, party style. It's got some color on it, but it's not overbearing. It's not too much. It's not too complicated. I can look at this in about a half a second and tell you exactly what it's about and exactly what the niche is. Whenever I create designs that have some kind of graphic arts element with a colorful illustration or icons and things like that, this is a great example of what I would strive for. Maybe not for all applications, but this is just a really good shining example of how you can take, a piece of art, a little bit of text, and put it together to make a fun, bright, colorful design that's going to be captivating to a target audience. All right, next one here. You guys are probably familiar with this, right? This has been up for a while. There's a lot of variations of this, but it's my birthday, sign my shirt. And this person just put a white block text. That's probably the full template size. And they just put, it's my birthday, sign my shirt. And this is just a white box on it. I mean, you could make this in about 30 seconds on any art platform. Now, the reason I'm showing this is because, again, don't go and copy this. They have 356 reviews. There's already a ton of these on there. But what are some other occasions that you could do a concept like this? What are some other occasions where someone may want to sign something, right? How about graduation, right? College graduation, high school graduation, elementary school graduation. How about reunions, right? High school reunions. How about family reunions? I mean, I'm just pulling these off the top of my head, but this is a creative approach where you're putting a white space on a shirt, on the front, maybe on the back, maybe on both, to try and appeal to a particular event or audience and have them have this sign kind of component. And you could expand on that even further with other ways that you could get a signature or maybe a drawing, maybe draw on my shirt, right? For a cast, like people used to draw on the cast on their arm or the cast on their leg, you'd sign it and draw something. Maybe you could do something like that. This is just another example of a creative way, a creative spin to kind of appeal to a different audience type and a different niche. All right, so this next design I came across while just doing some niche research on my own, and I was in the bowling niche, and it came across this. It's a wanted poster for the Evil 10 pin. Now, I'm not a big bowler, but the 10 pin I think is the very, very back right in the furthest corner of a bowling pin setup. So that's the one that often, keeps you from getting a strike, or it's hard to pick up in a spare. It's right along the gutter, I think. Anyway, the idea is that, this is appealing to somebody who really knows bowling, right? They're putting a wanted poster saying dead or alive. They want that Evil 10 pin because that's the most difficult one in bowling. You could take this same exact concept and apply this if you did some research on other sports or other hobbies. What are other really, really challenging either milestones or achievements or just, activities within that sport? This one is wanted for the Evil 10 pin, but what about something for softball or for basketball or for lacrosse or for ping pong or for cricket or even for other hobbies? Maybe there's a certain level of achievement, wanted sub, 20-minute 5K time, right? Or wanted 250-pound body weight bench press. I mean, I just thought this was clever. This design seems to be selling well. Again, don't copy this. Create something like this in a different niche. Combine it, cross niche. But this is a clever approach. I don't think this design is really that good, honestly. You can see here that they tried to kind of make it look like an old poster, but it looks like it's maybe like a screenshot. Some of the font colors are really bright and some are kind of like faded and washed out. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but I think this concept and design could both be improved upon and applied to a lot of other niches. Okay, I absolutely love these kind of designs. This is a funny 2-finger amputated missing finger recovery shirt, right? So personality, 10 out of 10. Looks, 10 out of 10. Fingers, 8 out of 10. I mean, that is funny, right? And this is appealing to somebody who clearly has lost 2 fingers. What a tragic event, right? But they're making light of it. They're making fun of it. I don't think there's a lot of these kind of shirts on Amazon where they're kind of self-deprecating if you have an injury or maybe a light procedure or something like that. And this is a really, really funny example. Now, this is specific to losing a finger, but you could totally do this for, I mean, all kinds of different niches and ideas. So simple text-based design, you just have to be creative. Whoever thought of this design said, I'm going to create this for somebody specifically who's lost 1 or 2 fingers. That's a very, very specific target audience. And that's the mindset I'm trying to kind of show here. You can't just create a funny, amputee shirt. You've got to really drill it down and niche it down to that specific customer. But this is funny. This is clever. It's easy to make. And with some thought, you could create a lot of cool designs in a lot of different areas. All right, so the next one I have pulled up here is actually a play on those old vintage posters, right? These old vintage advertisements, or in this case, kind of like a propaganda poster. Now, I believe this one is a Soviet design from the USSR, and it says het, and I think that means no, and it's kind of a gentleman saying no, and it's no to alcohol. So that really doesn't matter. What I'm trying to show you here is that there's a whole world of vintage images and copyright materials that actually expire and then go into the public domain. And in that public domain, you're allowed to use them to create artwork, to create designs, and sell them commercially. Now, it's up to you to go and do the research on the rules for that, but I will tell you there are websites out there that allow you to go in and download these vintage materials. You can repurpose them, you could put your own fonts, but the idea is that people enjoy these vintage style, posters and artwork. They just have that certain look to them. I happened to stumble across this one. It has some good sales. It's very, very niche down. This is clearly appealing to maybe people who like Russian history, or maybe people who lived in the former USSR, whatever the case may be. This is another area, another example. Maybe if you don't have strong graphic design skills, hey, let me research the public domain images from copyrighted and trademark materials that have expired that are now available for download and free to use. All right, so for my last design here, I had to throw this one up. This is an old gamer, kind of a retro video game t-shirt, and I just absolutely love it. I think it's so creative and so cool. So basically, it's an old controller on a walker, right? And the artist has illustrated this to look like an old hunched over controller, and they're kind of walking along. Now, if you're familiar with Nintendo, that's clearly a Nintendo controller. They didn't use Nintendo in the design. I wouldn't go that route. I would really stay away from anything that's strongly protected, such as Nintendo. But I'm trying to show you guys the concept here, right? Immediately you look at this and you're like, oh, and it clicks that that's like an old controller, because new video games are nothing like that. They've got the walker there, and this is going to appeal to someone probably like my age, that played Nintendo 25 years ago when they were a kid. But you could take this same concept, right, where maybe you have a particular image of something, whatever that subject is, and you make it look old with a walker. Or maybe you do the inverse, and you make it look young, and you're appealing to a younger audience or an older audience. The idea is I'm trying to kind of show you guys why these designs work, how my mind works when I'm thinking about these designs and I'm brainstorming. So when I see something like this, I'm immediately going, how could I take that same concept and apply it to some of the other niches that I'm already in or that I'm already familiar with? And I think if you give it some time and you really think about it, you get a pen and paper, you kind of brainstorm, you're going to find a lot of things like this. There's tons of hobbies and niches out there where people maybe remember the old days and back in the old school days, right? Back when I was a kid. And this is kind of playing on that. This is the retro gamer. Back when I was a kid, we played with the old Nintendo controllers. And this is just a really creative design. You don't need any text on it. You can see exactly what it is. It's well done. So I thought that would be a good one to include here. People often ask me how often I do my niche research, and the answer is all the time, because I'm constantly looking. When I'm on my phone, when I'm on the internet, I'm just looking and just kind of always keeping an eye out for that stuff. And one thing that's really helped me is I just set up a bookmark folder where I can just bookmark any designs that caught my attention. I just add them to my niche research bookmark folder so that when I'm sitting down and I'm diving deep into some niche research, I have all these saved links. I can go back and say, oh yeah, I like that design. Why couldn't I combine that with this niche? Or why couldn't I take this concept and give it to my designer, but tell them to change this concept and incorporate this concept? The idea is that I'm saving these niches. I'm constantly have this backlog here that I can cross and mix different components and creative elements to hopefully create something new. So I'd recommend you guys do the same. Create a little bookmark folder, maybe it's a pen and pencil, whatever the case may be, but constantly be kind of adding to that so that when you're ready to sit down and do your niche research, you have some fundamentally good designs that you can draw inspiration from. If you guys like this kind of video where I go over different niches and kind of talk about why I think they work and maybe some other ideas with them, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to make more of these videos if it's something you guys are interested in. In the meantime, be sure you sign up for my email newsletter. I've worked really hard on this. It's a newsletter I send out about once a week where I talk about all the different side hustles I'm participating in. It has a heavy emphasis on print on demand, but I also talk about other things like the Amazon Influencer Program. In my newsletter, I share things like tips and tricks, but I also do things like POD niche reveals. I talk about some strategy, my earnings, and a lot of other stuff that doesn't make it here on YouTube. And lastly, I just want to say a quick thank you. If you've taken the time to watch this video, whether you're new or a longtime subscriber, it doesn't go unnoticed and it really does make a big difference. So I really appreciate it. In the meantime, if you want to watch some more of my videos, check these out and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.